Welcome to another episode of Credentialed. We now welcome on Johnny Avello, the director of sports ops, lead oddsmaker for Draftkings Sportsbook, a true Las Vegas legend. Johnny, thank you for joining us to talk some Masters. Ready to get into it.
You're welcome, Matt. Glad you're well.
Yeah, so Masters Week is obviously here. I want to ask you quickly. Obviously, everyone watches the Masters. Everyone's tuned in for this week of golf. But how into the golf scene are you on like a week-to-week basis?
Personally, I'm into it quite a bit because I like to bet golf myself. So I follow. Now, there are some tournaments during the year I don't care about, and so I pass. But definitely follow the majors and definitely follow at least 60% of the normal circuit. The rest of it, of course, we've got to put the odds up on every tournament, and we've got a whole team that does the in-play wagering because that's really important to us. That has grown, but on a personal basis, that's me. About all majors and about 60% of the rest.
All right, beautiful. Well, I'm glad you said that because I have a few questions off of what you said with the live wagering, the weekend stuff. But first, I want to ask you, I didn't know how into betting the golf you were personally. So what does a weekly golf betting card look like for you? Are you betting outrights? Are you betting matchups? Like what's your process there?
It's usually outright. Always looking. There's a couple of guys I zero in on. Try to look at who plays well on that course, who's playing well as of late. Maybe go a little bit deeper and say this guy doesn't even figure, but he has the potential to come up with a big day or big 4 days. So that's the way I usually handicap, and it's usually outrights. Matchups, I don't mess around, but we just, like I said, we put odds up on everything, but that doesn't necessarily mean that that's what I'm interested in playing.
Yeah, same. I'm all about the outrights. Us at Vincerix, we have a company and we're just strictly outright bettors, so that's how we do it. But just wanted to get your process. But we're here to talk about the Masters. Obviously, round one is still underway. Justin Rose leads the way currently at 7 under. Who knows what he'll be once this pod is released? But Justin Rose has been there before. Justin Rose has led after day one before. What is your overall take on just day one of the Masters, Thursday, from a personal standpoint, just from a leaderboard standpoint?
It was nice weather. The conditions were great for all the golfers, so no surprise that the scores were low. It'll get a little tougher as we get through the weekend. It's Scotty to be that close, kind of a surprise to me. He was 4 under, and usually he likes to be a little bit further back. Not that he wants to be, he just usually is. But he had a good first round. I know Rory's still playing. He's 3 under. Very possible for him to be 4 or 5 under by the time the day's over. So the two guys that figured are 1-2 favorites, could be in the top 5 by the end of the day. Now, doesn't mean they're going to get there. There's a lot of other guys in the mix. Rose is I got to tell you, the older Rose gets, the better he plays. Amazing player, and he shows up for all the major tournaments. And even though he's got the lead in round one, don't look for him, to fade quickly. He may not win it all, but he's a savvy veteran and he could hang around a while.
Yeah, I totally agree with that because on our weekly show we talk about Rose and we're like, yeah, but how much does he really care? We know he cares about the majors. That's what he wants to win. That's what he wants to contend in, and we're obviously seeing it right now. And like you said with Scotty, usually he's not there all the way because he made 2 like 45-foot putts. I feel like in the past Scotty would have had that bogey-free 2 under round, and a fine round, but nothing crazy, not in the top 3. Now he's sitting there, I think, 3 back off the lead, firmly in the mix, to no one's surprise. But yeah, usually he gets off to somewhat semi-slower starts and just has the steady. But he had a kind of a pop round, gained 3 strokes on the greens, which is unlike Scotty Scheffler. So I don't know if I'm glad to see him being there, but who else are you surprised to see on the leaderboard? We got Corey Connors, Tyrrell Hatton, Matt McCarty's 3 under. Wow. And then Denny and Hideki around that T7 and above range. Are anyone you're surprised to see at this leaderboard?
Yeah. How about Bubba Watson?
Where's Bubba at?
Bubba Watson is -1. And,
Okay.
where has Bubba Watson been what does he do during the year? I never see him play in a golf tournament. Does he only play in the Masters? I mean, it's crazy. And just shows up and shoots one under, which is, loves his course. Won there twice. Other surprises is Hatton he was a good player. He's up there at -3. You've got Harris English up there -2. Jason Day. That's not a surprise. That's one of the guys I did play. So I hope he has a good finish. Fitzpatrick, but the rest of the guys, I mean, is there really ever a surprise in golf? Freddie Couples at -1 that's a
That's a
surprise.
surprise.
Yeah, that's a surprise. But the rest of the guys, even Brian Harmon, these guys are just good players. I saw Brian Harmon hit. I was down at the Waste Management a few years ago, and I go every year for the company to go down there and represent us and do some interviews. But Brian Harmon, I watched him on the range, and he hit a 7-iron. He was hitting a 7-iron about 180 yards or so, and he was hitting every single shot in the same exact place. These guys are amazing to watch, Matt. I don't know how close you've been to them, but they're just the way they strike the ball, the height on the ball. They're just so different than just an amateur golfer. They are just so good.
1000%. Yeah, it is cool to see Bubba playing well. He's out there on the Live Tour every X amount of weeks, but he hasn't done anything special on Live. He hasn't been leading after any rounds. He hasn't been playing any golf. But you get to Augusta, guys that know Augusta play well at Augusta. So it is cool to see Bubba and a few of those guys you named on the leaderboard. It is only Thursday. A lot can happen. But Rory's right there, like you said. Scotty's right there. If you had to pick one of those two between Rory and Scotty to win personally or just in general, who do you think gets the job done? Not necessarily win, but who do you think out of Rory and Scotty finish lower or finish better?
Yeah, a matchup between those two. I would take Scotty, and the reason I would take Scotty is because Scotty gets out of trouble a lot. Even when he doesn't have his game, he still finds a way to shoot okay. Rory goes into these stretches where he misses putts and tries to be too aggressive and go right of the green, or he'll be on the right side, wave right at the green where he should be in the middle of the green. So I'd probably stick with Scotty. I think he's the more steady of the two, although Rory's probably one of the best players to ever play the game. Is certainly his swing's one of the best that we've ever seen.
1000%. And yeah, that kind of leads me to my next question. You mentioned the matchup between Rory and Scotty. How involved are you in both setting matchup lines and outright lines? Kind of separate the two questions, but I don't know if you're doing it personally, you have a team or a lot of computers, but how does that process work for DraftKings?
Well, you got to remember, Matt, we have a team of 75 traders, more than that, and we have them in Europe, we have them in the U.S. And so we have a whole team that concentrates on various sports. So we have a team that concentrates on golf only, and that team they do all the work. And that goes for NFL, that goes for college football, that goes for college basketball. The team does the work. We just sit back and take the glory.
Right. Yeah, that makes sense. And I don't know if you know this answer off the top of your head, but I want you to get to your team, then find a way to get back to me. I need to know why Keith Mitchell is always priced like he's some generational winner who wins every 5 weeks. I don't know why he's priced in the 20-1 range, 30-1 range when this man hasn't won in years and never really even comes close to winning. But take a look at the odds board. He is always priced absurdly high. So let me know when you find that out.
Now, when you say he's high, not low, right? You're talking.
I know. I mean, like he's towards the favorites when he shouldn't be.
He isn't in tournaments like this.
Well, he's not in the Masters, but like in the normal weeks.
So, he would be priced lower. Remember, there's a lot of tournaments where you won't find Scotty Scheffler and Rory, and these live players aren't in the tournaments that he would be in. So, I think what happens is there's tournaments during the year where a guy like that would have a decent shot to win. And so that's where you might see him, at that 35, 40-1 range. You're not going to see him that price when he's up against this group. I mean, there's 35 or 40 golfers in this tournament alone that would be priced higher than him. So that would put him in a tournament like this. He'd be 300, 400.
Yeah, I mean, like this for sure. But even in weeks when he's 35-1, I think if you guys made him 70, you'd make a great fortune on Keith Mitchell because people love to bet him, and I think that's a part of a reason why he is where he is. But this man has no chance on a weekly basis. It's just funny that to see where he's priced sometimes. That was just a little nugget I just wanted to add on Keith. But for DraftKings as a whole, how are you guys doing in terms of handle, in terms of income for matchups versus outrights? Which is a better market for you guys?
Outrights, because the outrights are not only open pre-tournament start of the tournament, they're open a year. I mean, we
Hmm.
put up next year's master when this year's masters is over. So that's up a very long time. Then we reopen it every day, plus keep it open during the whole
Right.
tournament. So it's open from Thursday morning all the way to Sunday afternoon. And so there's a lot of money goes, whether it's going to be the live money or it's going to be the pre-match. That's that takes precedent over everything else.
Yeah, and is that the case? Are you guys doing better in outright markets for like regular tournaments too, not just like the majors and the masters? Like for example, the Valero Texas Open. Are you guys doing great on outrights in that week versus matchups in that week?
Yeah, every tournament,
Every week?
the outright's going to be the biggest proposition
Okay.
that we put up. That's the biggest offering, and it is because that's the way most people like to bet.
Yeah.
So, of course, Masters is going to be number one. That's going to be head and shoulders above every other tournament, including other majors. But you can take the smaller tournaments, like you could take a Valero and that tournament the outrights will do better than any other offering that we put up.
So let's move into the futures market, the outright markets. First of all, who are your biggest liabilities for the week? And maybe who are your biggest liabilities in the long term markets, the Masters odds that were up for months? Has it changed going into the week?
Yeah, well, first of all, I'll give you a guy that probably had no shot, but they bet him because he was about 800, 900 to 1, which was Noah Kent. He's an amateur.
Really, really, that is
Yeah.
hilarious.
Yeah, when they take a shot. Now, if I don't know if you noticed that, but Noah Kent was like 2 under through the first two holes.
Yeah,
But
I did see that.
I think he finished around +6, so he's probably not going to be around. Um, uh,
That is
Oberg.
crazy.
Oberg was the guy that we took play on. Uh, Bathia, he also we took money on him too. Now remember Oberg he won that Genesis, so a lot of that money
Hmm.
came around at that point. We've seen good money on Rory, Neiman coming over from the Live Tour. He's had a great year on that side. Bryson Chambeau, he's also popular. He talked a good game how he could shoot, 67 easily at this, and I think he's only done it a few times, but he's in the hunt. I think last I saw he's 1 or 2 under. Russell Henley, who has been great in the statistics
Yep.
boxes. I mean, he's done everything right. And then Min Woo Lee is another one who got play too. So, and then Tiger's not in this one, but who you think took play to take Tiger's place? Phil, of course. So Phil was another one they played, and then of course Sepp
Straka.
Straka was the other one that took a little bit of money, and then there was others too, but those were the top liabilities for us.
Yeah. Speaking of like statistically and Russell Henley, I've noticed that in the past, the guys at towards the top of the odds board, like outside of the big names, are guys who are really good in terms of strokes gained approach. Like every single week, you model approach, those guys rate high on DraftKings, and I'm not sure if that's just a portion of how you guys model out with the odds, but just something I did note. And then with the futures market, something I've also noticed from the last few years, unless there is a super outlier number that you really want to get, I've always done better waiting till the Wednesday before the Masters or even late Tuesday for those odds to reset and drift because there's massive change. I feel like in the futures markets, the odds only get worse as you get closer. And then like Tuesday, Wednesday, they reset and then you can get the number you're looking for.
Happens a lot. One guy that didn't happen on was Morikawa.
Yep.
Morikawa, you could have got him at 18, 20 to 1, and there was a big push on him, and I think we closed like 13 and a half or so. So it wasn't, that's a guy that took money late. Yeah, I mean, the way we do the team, you talk about the statistics. Of course, the team follows everything. That's their job. That's their primary job is golf. So they're all over it. All statistics, everything goes into the model. And so, that's how the odds are constructed.
Right. Okay. I want to move to the hole by hole markets because they're getting more popular by the week, by the year. For like a week like the Masters, are there more options listed, and obviously the majors too?
Yeah, I mean, we remember we have to stay ahead because
Mm-hmm.
the reason we have to stay ahead is even though we have a pretty close live feed, the consumer doesn't.
Right.
So we have to say sometimes we're a hole or even two holes ahead sometimes. Masters does good. The waste management does great because then at the waste management, we concentrate on that 16th hole.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the one that a lot of people are interested in. And we're doing things now where low score between the threesome that are playing. Will they get a bird? Will any of them get a birdie, or will it be three pars, or will any of them get a bogey? So we've added a lot more to that whole in live, hole by hole wagering.
I have another question following up on that because obviously we see these courses on a yearly basis. We have some data on how the holes score. What is the process for when we go to courses like Royal Troon or Oakmont, for example, a major course that we haven't seen in like sometimes 10 plus years to set some of these whole score props? Because I know that every single major that they exist, but sometimes I see that the odds for a group to score +1 or worse would be around 20-1, and then the next day it slashes down to 5-1 because the odds could have been wrong. So what's the process in setting those lines?
Yeah, holes change, from the time we've done some of those courses in the past. Maybe some of those holes have changed. We just had the data to go by, past data, and any tournaments that maybe weren't played on the tour, but anything we can get our hands on the data for that course. And then that's what we use. And then sometimes the bettors will think that those numbers are wrong and really pound aside. And then, of course, that's when you see that big odds reduction. So that does happen from time to time. Sometimes it gets there, sometimes it doesn't.
Right. What are the most bet on markets on during these major weeks, like in the live markets? I'm saying outside of the outrights, what's like a Wednesday or a Thursday, Friday night? What are the people pounding? What are they looking for in terms of the weekend?
Well, we still have the matchups up, and we talked about the hole by hole. Those are real popular, and we try to keep a lot of stuff up that we even did pre-market, uh, pre-match starting. So we try to keep more stuff up for live, and then we reset the next day and put up a whole new set of matchups, and they're really popular, of
Right.
course. So it's a little bit of everything. We kind of learned through the years what is the most popular stuff, and matchups seem to be, as the tournament goes on, each and every on the reset of the new day, and of course nothing's touching the outrights because that's up so long, and all we do is see is the numbers changing.
All right, let's take a look at the odds board again. Or sorry, not the odds board, the leaderboard. Justin Rose, Scotty Scheffler, Corey Connors, Rory McIlroy. Who on this leaderboard, even down if you want to look, who do you think is going to take some of the bigger action going into the weekend, and maybe what kind of action do you think these guys are going to take?
Well, we know if Scotty's close and Rory's close, they're going to take action. But the problem is you're going to get Scotty's like plus 250 right now, and Rory's plus 275. So there's just not a whole lot to get there. They might look at guys like Hatton is still 30-1 to win it all. Uh, might look at Oberg is -2. He's still got a few holes to play, so you can still get a decent price on him. He's 18-1, and he was getting bet even before the tournament, so they may continue to put some money on him. They're not going to Freddie Couples and guys like that, probably not. Patrick Reed, he's won this before.
Hmm.
He's -1 right now for the day, and he's still a really big price out there. So they're going to take shots. He's 100-1. They're going to take some shots on some of these guys that might put round two, put a good round together there, and then maybe who knows? Being there, be in the hunt on Sunday, and anything could happen at that point.
Yeah. So let's talk to me a little bit, as much as you want, about your betting card, about what you're looking for this weekend on a personal level. Who are you rooting for? What are you expecting to see from the Masters out of this, either top 10 down the board? Talk to me a little bit about what you bet.
Well, I also bet a little more Cowan. I watched him play a little bit today, and he was okay early, and he struggled late. So, will he pick it up? There's some guys I'm thinking about maybe picking up. I may pick up a Cantlay. I like Cantlay's game. I
Hmm.
think Cantlay was last I saw. I think he was like a -1. He's still got a few holes to play. So if he ends up around -1 or two, I may take a shot and pick him up. Jason Day was a guy I bet at about 90 to 1 or so. I got a few sprinklers out there. We'll see. Some of these guys are, it's you bet a few guys, and then you just hope to have a couple that'll be
100%.
around because they're all not going to do well. I bet Big Bob today. He struggled today. I think he was +3 or so. So he's probably out of it at this McIntyre. So, he's probably out of it at this point. So sometimes some of your bets are gone on day one.
Yeah, I mean that's why I always go with a card of four plus guys to hopefully get a guy in the mix. But Patrick Cantlay, I like what you mentioned him. He's hitting the ball really well yet again, but it's the same story. He is losing strokes at Augusta again on the greens. On the greens, he's never once gained strokes putting at Augusta. And I mean, as a golf fan, these aren't regular green surfaces. They're very complex and tough to work your way around. So it's why some of these guys play so well on a yearly basis, because you either have it on the greens or you don't. And it seems like Patrick Cantlay cannot handle these green surfaces, because he's going on losing almost a full stroke on the greens again, and he's still in the top 10. I mean, it seems like it's not a lot to ask for. Just gain strokes putting, and then you'll be in the mix. But clearly, it might be a little bit too much for Pat. But Bob Mack was a very popular pick too in my circles, and he shot +3. I mean, I think +3 is probably a little bit too deep, but I would say the line of cutoff today is probably around 1 or 2 over, because you got Rose at 8 and then a massive gap. If Rose falters, then everyone's back in the mix come Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So I probably would say that +3 might be dead, but you can always shoot a low score if you go out Friday morning and get back into the mix.
Yeah, I guess it depends on who's +3. Uh,
True.
if Rory's +3, well, or Scotty's +3, then yes. But Bob McIntyre, I don't know. I've seen him out on the course, not personally, just on TV, and I've seen him, and he gets a little frustrated out there. And that's the difference between some of these golfers. A guy like Cantlay, although Cantlay is one of the better golfers out there, and
Hmm.
although he doesn't have this track record of winning all these majors, he's got such a smooth stroke, and he's got a good demeanor out there. He doesn't lose it. But maybe that also shows that maybe he doesn't care as much as others care. So I
I
don't know
agree
what
with you.
goes. I don't know what goes through his head, but I've bet him before. I've won with him before, but those wins are far and few between.
Yeah, the man hasn't won in years, and we talk on this show with my co-host every single week about golfers, and Cantlay is always around the 20, 30, sometimes even higher range, and we're always like, why are you going to waste all this money on an outright? When how much does he care about winning a golf tournament? Because he's cashing a lot of money finishing T8 every single week. How much does he care? Because winning is not an easy task, as you know. One guy can win, and you have to have that next gear to be able to win. So when Scotty's priced around 4.5 to 1 and Rory's priced around 7 to 1, and no one wants to bet those really, because I see Patrick Cantlay, Colin Morikawa 15 to 1, 30 to 1. Like, that's a big payday. How much do those guys care? It's great for you
You know,
guys, but not great for everyone else.
I've never proclaimed to know what goes through guys' heads or goes through teams' heads. A lot of guys will, say teams playing another team, and they'll say, yeah, last week they won, and so they're going to be, they're not going to have the enthusiasm this week. How the hell do we know that? So you only can go by what you see. What he's done in the past, and it seems like he's out there, and he tries, but it doesn't look like maybe he
Yeah.
cares as much as others. That's all. One other guy we forgot to mention was Corey Connors.
Yep.
He's playing well, and he's a guy that you can still get, at least on our site, at about 18-1. He's in second right now, tied for second. So I don't know if I wouldn't say I didn't see that coming, but because I think he's also a good player. He's another guy I've bet in the past. I just didn't know if he could handle this course for 4 days.
Yeah, I'm on Corey Connors this week at 65-1, but I'm not sure if I'd recommend it at like 18-1 because Corey Connors is not a prolific winner, and it's not really. I don't think it's a good number at all for the winning upside he does, but upside he has. But I think Corey Connors is a generational top 10 market guy, top 20 market guy. You can get him pre-tournament or even now, like you want a top 5, top 10 on him. I think there's an avenue for that to still cash. Obviously, I'm rooting for it because I have a 65-1 ticket, but I don't know how much I'd recommend it at 18-1 now because it's Corey Connors.
Just to give you an idea how the odds work, Matt, Corey Connors is in the clubhouse, right? And he's been in the clubhouse at -4. So his score hasn't changed. But as we're speaking, Corey Connors just went to 20-1 because Rory is now -4. So that's how those odds change. As guys are moving up and getting tied, and depends on who those players are, some of those other guys who were in the clubhouse, their odds could change, and they're not even out on the course.
And I will say, if you say you do want to bet Corey Connors tonight, I would say wait even longer because Rory McIlroy is going to go out in the morning. Corey Connors is going to be waiting until the afternoon. Maybe at this time, we're saying he's 18-20 right now. Maybe around tomorrow afternoon, he tees off around 26-25-1. So
good point.
if you want to get Corey Connors, hold off a little bit because this show will be released far before then. So before we get out of here, I want to ask you, what is your ideal outcome personally, and then what is the sportsbook's ideal outcome this week?
Well, if John Rahm were to win it, that would be really good for us.
Not much John Rahm action this week.
John Rahm usually gets played quite heavily, and he did not this tournament. Yeah. Other guys that would be good for us, Matsuyama would be good for us. Fleetwood, who very rarely wins. I don't think he's ever won, to be honest.
Never.
So there's quite a few guys that are good for us. But I mentioned the guys that are. So if any of those other guys I mentioned don't win, we're going to be okay.
Yeah. And it's crazy. You said Matsuyama. I feel like whenever he does win, it's probably good for you because he only wins when people are least expecting it. Like whenever Hideki's going under the radar, he's like, oh, he wins when he's looking horrible. So that definitely checks out. It's just Hideki. And you can never, whenever I'm out there, I try to handicap him. I'm like, I just can't look at him because whatever I see is wrong. He's one guy I just cannot look at when I'm out there. So. Well, thank you for joining us. Happy to talk Masters. Happy to get you on the show, and hopefully we both can cash in some regard. I know we have some crossover. I got some Jason Day action too, so hopefully we can cash there. But Johnny, thank you for joining me. Best of luck to you guys. I'm not going to wish best of luck to the sportsbook. I'm going to wish best of luck to us. So hopefully we'll talk again soon. Thank you for joining us.
Matt. Thanks a lot. Good talking to you.